Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got our third sneak peek for the Ant-Man and the Wasp MCU update, likely coming in a couple of weeks to coincide with the new movie that's out very soon. And the update that we got, or the sneak peek for the update that we got, is here on Mobirum. There isn't a lot of difference between the different postings in different languages, so I'm not going to be covering that. But essentially, we have confirmed not only that it's absolutely positively a tie-in, which the first two sneak peeks didn't really give us. They just gave us hints that the characters surround kind of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne and kind of that whole Ant-Man group. But now we know for sure with the upper right kind of logo, Ant-Man and the Wasp, that it has to do with the MCU, because this version of Ghost is not in the Marvel Comics universe, it's only in the MCU, so this has to be a movie tie-in. And if you guys are not familiar, if you haven't seen any of the trailers for Ant-Man and the Wasp, this is Ghost, the kind of antagonist, or presumably the villain of the movie. Now, there's a bit of confusion, or there's a bit of difference between the movie version and the comic version, so I wanted to discuss that briefly before going into some additional hints, or possibly hints, that are in this photo. So look at the photo very carefully, because there's actually a lot more than meets the eye. Now, as far as Ghost goes as a character, it's pretty difficult to guess what kind of character Ghost is going to be. My best example for what you can expect for this character is kind of like Ant-Man, but kind of like Vision, but also kind of like Ebony Maw. And the reason why I say all of those three characters combined is because Ghost is kind of like, in a creepy way, like Ebony Maw, but has the kind of shrinking, or the kind of size, not necessarily size, but in the movie it appears that Ghost has size manipulation properties, but more accurately also has intangibility properties like Vision. So what intangibility basically means is that you can see the person, but you can't touch them. You basically go through them, and they're in, basically like air, basically. And that's one of the ways that we see Vision express his attacks in this game, where he kind of phases down into the ground and he comes back up. He's still there, nothing touches him, and in that sense he has an iframe, or he's got invincibility or immunity in the case of his intangible tier 2. So we could expect some intangibility from Ghost. We could expect some kind of mind control, or some kind of controlling aspect similar to Ebony Maw. Not that there's any kind of telepathy or any kind of psychic powers that Ghost has in the comics, or presumably in the movie, but the fact that Ghost is a very strong level tactician and very highly skilled as a hacker could give them some of those properties. In addition to the intangibility, Ghost also has the invisibility, or the ability to go invisible, so that could lead to something similar to either what Ancient One has, or what Spider-Man 2099 has, in terms of the accelerated decoy, where when you hit him, he goes invisible, and then he gets a quick guard hit, and there's like an extra version of him that pops up. So that's very possible that they could copy some of those skills, and keep in mind that's a very powerful effect in the game. It makes Spider-Man 2099 one of the most annoying characters to deal with in PvP, in addition to the fact that he has webbing, but those things go hand in hand. As far as additional shrinking properties, that isn't present in the comic book version of Ghost, which is why I know that there's some confusion. Basically, the movie version of Ghost appears to be quite different from the comic book version. The comic book version is a man. The comic book version, like I said, is a hacker, kind of shooter, but likes to stick to the shadows, is more of a stealthy character rather than a confrontational character. Doesn't really want to fight or engage you, kind of like Ebony. Just wants to kind of sneak around and get what they want from behind the scenes. But in the movie, it appears, at least from what we've seen from the trailers, that Ant-Man, or at least Hank Pym's technology for shrinking, or something along those lines, some kind of quantum mechanical power, has been stolen by Ghost. And you see Ghost kind of looking at their hands in the trailer, and presumably there's something else going on there. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe there's a scene where we do see Ghost either get bigger or smaller. So that could be something that comes about in the game as a result of that, because we are following the MCU version. As far as getting a uniform for this character, it's kind of up in the air at this point. They could definitely do the original comic book look, and then have the uniform for the movie as the other look, like we've done for a lot of other villains, most notably and most recently Killmonger, but also you guys are very familiar with Vulture, who has the exact same treatment. Classic comic book look, new movie look. As far as typing goes, I think it's pretty much set on either speed or combat. I would suggest speed just because it fits with a lot of the other Ant-Man characters, most notably Ant-Man himself, but it's also possible for Ghost to be a combat type because of Giant Man. I don't really see any other typing being possible. Universal is definitely out of the question. Blast just doesn't appear to fit that well with the character. Ghost has had a long history fighting against Iron Man, but that's basically the only connection that Ghost has to Blast types. So I would guess either combat or speed. I would prefer it to be a speed character because we have very few speed villains. However, a lot of people, or some people, have suggested that Ghost could be a combat supervillain with that enhanced mechanic that we're seeing from characters like Shuri and Coulson with their tier 2 passive affecting the team, and how that could make the character desirable for PvP and Extreme Alliance battle scores. The kind of booster effect that Valkyrie also has, and more notably and more recently, to an extent, Ebony Maw has. Now, in addition to what I've discussed in terms of my speculation on the character, the typing, the types of attacks, or the power level, and in addition to the other sneak peeks that we've seen for Pimtron / Giant Man and Nadia Hope, which is also a new Wasp, we can go back to this original image of Ghost on the computer screen, and I want to direct your attention to the bottom right. It looks to be a phone, and there's something on the phone. Now, originally I didn't spot this, and then even after it was pointed out to me by some of my brilliant fans, I still couldn't see it, so a few of them took the time to explain it to me, and now I do understand. So I want to impart that information to you, and I also want to thank them for their help in making me a more hawk-eyed individual. The image you see at the bottom there bears a very striking similarity to Hawkeye, basically. It's a combination, it seems, of Hawkeye's Avengers pose, where he's standing kind of facing you with his bow down, and the Avengers Infinity War A symbol, which has been used for a lot of the promotional posters for the movie, which, you know, is about 2 months old now. And that image, when you kind of up the brightness on the teaser, and then when you kind of zoom in a little bit, and I'll outline it for you guys here in red, really does look like that. And I mocked up an image of it so you can see side by side what the two look like, and it's hard not to see that. Now, whether that's just Netmarble trolling us with minor details that some people will pick up but actually bears no importance to the update, I have no idea. The only connection that Hawkeye has to Ant-Man and Ghost is basically twofold. On the one, Hawkeye and Ant-Man were the two characters that were left out of Infinity War, and they were explained by Black Widow as being under house arrest, and we do see Ant-Man being under house arrest at the beginning of one of the trailers, so it's possible that they're just kind of a nod to the fact that they're both speed characters, and they were both under house arrest, and they both weren't in Infinity War, and they both need upgrades, and they both need uniforms, yada yada yada. The only other thing is that at one point, Hawkeye became Goliath, and that's what I mentioned in one of my earlier videos about the second sneak peek. I didn't want to get into all the different versions of Goliath. I just wanted to focus on Bill Foster, because there's just been a lot of different people that have taken the kind of increasing size Pym particles temporarily, and Clint Barton has been one of those. He was he was Giant Man. He was giant for a very short amount of time, for a small amount of time, so that could be the other nod to the character. Now, I have almost zero hope that Hawkeye would get a Giant Man uniform. I think it would be a bit ridiculous, it would be confusing for the fans, and I don't think it would fit, because I don't think we're going to see Hawkeye in this movie, but I guess it's possible. It's not out of the question, but it would be a huge MCU spoiler for Netmarble to do that, and I don't think that the Marvel executives would have wanted Netmarble to reveal a huge cameo in their movie in one of the sneak peeks for their game. It just seems bizarre to me and absurd. So, sorry Hawkeye fans, I don't think this is going to be your time to shine. The Ronin uniform with Infinity War Part 2 is probably your best bet, and we've already seen some of the behind-the-scenes photos of that with the shin guards, but it would be nice, it would be really nice if Hawkeye got some sort of base kit rework that is changing around his base skills regardless of his uniform, in order to make him a little bit more presentable before he gets a new uniform to really push him up to, hopefully, Winter Soldier-like levels. The last rework that a lot of people are still hoping for, that has basically zero connection to this update is Hyperion. We still haven't heard anything from Netmarble regarding when Hyperion is going to be reworked. It's been over a month now, I believe, since the vote was finalized and Hyperion took away, I think, about 30% or more of the popular vote. So I'm not too sure what is taking them so long, but hopefully we will see Hyperion in this update with Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of shoehorned in there. Otherwise, I'm not really sure when we're going to see him, but I didn't have a full video to make about that, so I just wanted to throw this one in addition to Hawkeye as a potential rework character who could be joining the likes of Ant-Man, Wasp, and Goliath, or Giant Man, that we already have in the game. So right now, Ant-Man and the Wasp is shaping up to be a pretty epic new update. We've got villains, we've got uniforms for existing characters, and we could have a whole bunch of reworked characters on our hands. At least one, possibly three or more. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.